There are 54 countries in Africa with different land area and population. Some of these countries are strategically located on the map, while others are not so fortunate. That is the case of Burundi, a small landlocked country located in the eastern part of Africa between Tanzania, Rwanda, and the DRC. Though it's a beautiful country with vibrant cities, Burundi is currently the poorest country in the world as well as the most politically unstable. Now, when political instability and climate change afflicts a country already struggling with high levels of poverty, the consequences can be catastrophic. And this is the situation with Burundi. In 1994, Burundi suffered a catastrophic civil war, which lasted for over 11 years. It's been more than a decade since then, but still, the country is still trying to get back on her feet. The Kingdom of Burundi was one of the strongest kingdoms in the African Great Lakes region for several centuries, until the end of the 19th century, when it became a German colony, and remained so until the end of the First World War, and then it became a Belgian colony. Before colonization, an army of Arab slave traders infiltrated the country in pursuit of slaves in 1884 and were humiliated by the country's army. That's just to show you an illustration of how strong Burundi was back in the days. With such strong resistance, unlike some other kingdoms in the region, Burundi has never been involved in slave trade. Attempts by Belgian colonists to control Burundi's population met with similar resistance, and several missionaries who were among the first Europeans to enter Burundi were assassinated. As a result, the Belgian colonist approach of imposing their authority on the country was to weaken the existing state. While the Belgians are partly to be blamed for the fragile state in which Burundi finds itself, the geographic landscape and Burundian political leaders, particularly those from the Tutsi ethnic minority, are also to be blamed. So how did bad location and politics ruin this country? Well, before we find that out, please support us by subscribing to our channel and turning on the notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. The first thing we'll look at is Burundi's bad topography. Burundi is a small landlocked country that shares borders with Tanzania, Rwanda, and the DRC. The country is so small that you have to literally zoom into the African map before you can see it. Now, one thing that attracts a lot of tourists to certain countries are its beautiful beaches and beachside hotels. And because Burundi is entirely surrounded by land, the country is completely lacking in that domain. In comparison, small countries like Seychelles and Mauritius almost entirely depend on their tourism industry. Because of its lack of tourist attractions, the country is one of the least visited in Africa, with barely over 200,000 visitors per year. Now, we can't entirely blame the lack of a booming tourism industry in Burundi on its landlocked nature, because its neighbors Rwanda suffer the same fate, but is doing well in that regard. In addition to its landlocked nature, Burundi has a hilly landscape that is prone to erosion and landslides, making food production difficult for its ever-growing population. This has made the country have one of the highest rates of malnutrition in the world. Over 2/3 of all children under the age of 5 and about 56% of the population suffer from malnourishment. Land is the greatest cause of conflict in Burundi. Despite the fact that the country is one of the smallest in mainland Africa, it has one of the highest population densities. And as a result, land is very valuable in the country, since it is the major means through which people can earn money. Agriculture is the main economic activity of Burundi. In fact, 89% of the population are subsistence farmers and depend on the land to grow food for their families, meaning most of the farmers grow food to survive and not to even grow wealth. Burundi has also encountered a large number of natural disasters, and in recent years, droughts, severe rain, floods, and hailstorms have been highly destructive. Communities have been displaced, homes have been destroyed, Livelihoods have been disrupted. Food and nutrition security has declined, mostly as a result of these disasters. Other effects of these natural disasters include decrease in land productivity and an increase in agricultural pests. Recent natural disasters have put regions in danger of long-term food instability and nutritional deficiency. With a population of over 11.9 million people and a population density of about 650 people per kilometer square, overcrowding definitely has contributed to an increase in food and resource scarcity in these afflicted areas. Next on the list, we have political instability in Burundi. Burundi as a country has been through a lot, from civil wars to coups d'etats, and these have made the country to be one of the most political unstable countries in Africa. Burundi has seen 6 episodes of civil conflict, 2 significant attempted coups d'etats, and 5 successful coups d'etats that resulted in political change since independence. The primary cause of political instability can be traced back to the colonial powers' conflict-ridden policies, which have subsequently been maintained by post-colonial rulers. This political instability has resulted in repeated cycles of violence, resulting in the collapse of the country's institutions and economy, even after the Arusha Agreement was negotiated. Now, the Arusha negotiations were the first serious attempt by Africans to find a lasting solution to Burundi's political problem, even though it was implemented with a lot of shortcomings. However, it formed the basis on which a credible and inclusive political system in Burundi could be built. The small Tutsi leaders from Burundi established an unlawful system that concentrated political, military, and economic power in their hands. The exclusion of Hutus, and to a lesser extent non-Bururi Tutsis, further divided the country. The coup d'etat of 1966 turned out to be the first of many, while others took place in 1976, 1987, 1993, and 1996, all of which resulted in regime change. In May 2015, a group of officers attempted but failed to seize power by force, and as a result of this, Burundi was thrown into another chaos. One thing that has led to the political instability in Burundi is that the government leaders and institutions have never been held accountable, nor even punished for the crimes and other injustices committed since the 1960s. The justice system has been weakened, allowing political leaders to continue to wage bloody battles, thereby increasing the instability of this country. The failure of successive governments to acknowledge past state crimes has affected large sections of the population. And another troubling practice has been corruption, in which state-owned enterprises have absorbed a large portion of the government's budget in the form of subsidies. For example, state-owned enterprises reported a net loss of 6% of GDP, or 14% of government revenue in 1995, excluding grants. International institutions have also ranked Burundi as one of the most corrupt countries in the world. Burundi has been in a state of political unrest since April 2015, with over 1,200 people killed and over 400,000 people displaced. The economy has been particularly affected, dropping by 4% in 2015 and 1% in 2016. Though most landlocked countries in Africa suffer when it comes to the standard of living of its citizens, there are so many landlocked countries in the world that are still thriving. Burundi has a very peculiar case of its selfish leaders who work only for themselves. Burundi might not be the most blessed country in Africa when it comes to natural resources, but the country has enough that can cater for its people if it is well managed. Conclusively, Burundi is a beautiful country, but political instability, bribery, and corruption are some of the factors plaguing the country. Good leadership is what will salvage these horrible living conditions in Burundi. Dear Explorers, let's continue this conversation in the comments. What do you think can be done to remove Burundi out of poverty? And what measures can the government implement that will boost its economy? Please drop your answers below, and the best comment will be pinned. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed watching, please give it a thumbs up. We can support the channel by subscribing and also turning on that notification bell so you'd never miss any of our videos.